Can you find the spectacled flying fox in zoos at all? That seems to be a question going around parts of the Planet Zoo community here in the time after the announcement of the Oceania pack. And that question I'll help you answer today. It is of course a matter of opinion if you think a real-life captive presence matters at all for justifying a species inclusion in Planet Zoo. But even if you don't care about this kind of realism, you might still be able to find some useful information in this video. It can help you where to look for inspiration when you're going to design an enclosure for this new species. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The first place I go when I want to see if an animal is to be found in zoos is the German website ZooTierListe. But don't worry, English is an option here. Here you can look up the animal you are interested in and see in which and how many zoos you can find it. But before you get too excited about this, you should know this website does not work for every part of the world. Let me show you. Let us first go with the Indian peafowl as an example, as I know this is a very common animal in captivity. Therefore it will probably show us close to all countries we can find on this site. What we can see is that this website is mostly built up around Europe. So the list on the left here shows all the parks that are in countries within the European Union, not the continent itself, but the Union. The list next to it will show you the remaining European countries and some zoos in countries in other parts of the world. These are countries like Singapore, New Zealand, and some places in the Middle East. So now that we know this, we can look up a new flying fox. When nothing shows up on ZooTierListe, it means no zoos this site covers got the animal or have had it in the past, as far as we know. I have tried with both their English common name and their scientific name. So what do we do now? Now we have to find some of the places that ZooTierListe doesn't cover. So we of course go to Google. And instead of dragging you through a whole lot of websites, I will just let you know what I have found. But I will point out that especially ZooChat was a big help since they got this post about native mammals in Australian zoos, and it is also a good place to look up pictures of animals in zoos and similar. Besides that, some comments from some cool people on the Planet Zoo forum was also helpful. As it seemed to often be with some Australian animals, it seems like the main, if not all, of the captive presence of this animal species is within Australia. According to this thread on ZooChat, which seems to have been last updated in January 2020, 4 zoos in Australia had the species at that point. Quite a low number, but it at least confirms they do exist in zoos. It seems like one single animal was kept at a facility in the USA for a longer period, but sadly that passed away recently. Back in Australia, if we look outside of the actual zoos, there also seems to be various rescue centers and wildlife hospitals which cares for the species in one way or another. So to make some kind of conclusion to all of this, keeping the spectacled flying fox in captivity is for sure realistic. But at the same time, it is far from a very common zoo animal. But within Australia, they do seem to be in a small handful of places. Because of all of this, my advice to the realistic Planet Zoo player is only to use this species if you're working on a zoo placed in Australia, unless you want your zoo to be the first mover of the species somewhere else. My Canopy Gardens project here on the channel happens to be placed just around where you can find this species in the wild, so I will for sure be adding them to my zoo, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. Even though I was very much hoping their spot in the DLC would have been going to a flying bird species instead. It's really about time we get that. And before we end here, I also very much want to point out that nobody should tell you how to play and enjoy the game. So if you don't care at all about realism, then that is totally fine. Go crazy with all the animals you like, build the craziest habitats you can come up with, and use the flying fox as much as you want, no matter where you build your zoo. Don't let us realistic nerds take that away from you. And for the realistic people, if you want a bit of information about the spectacled flying fox in captivity, then I have put up a few useful links in the description. And if you have stumbled upon some evidence of them in captivity that I have missed, then you are very welcome to let me know below. Thank you for stopping by.